I'd like to bring up our moderator, founder of Touchten, Anton Soeharyo. Please come on up to the stage. Round of applause for Anton, everybody.
So, very happy to be here. Wow, I look big. Bigger. So, you... okay. You have two big guys and two skinny guys, and this is the mobile scene of Southeast Asia. Yes. So, I'm very happy to be here. Very honored to be in this panel. So we have very famous people here. All of you here obviously have mobile devices, and you have iOS and Android. Obviously, you have played or even know about them, but nobody play my game, so it's okay. So a quick introduction, a 30-second introduction from each of you. Can you introduce yourself and explain briefly your plans or what you did in Southeast Asia? So starting from Alvin.
Right, so I'm Alvin, I'm founder of TMG. We basically do mobile social gaming for Southeast Asian markets. So at the core of everything, our product is essentially a mobile social network where users can interact with each other through games. We are very active in the markets like Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, moving into India as well. So naturally, because we're in these markets, our services are right now very feature phone centric because that is 80 to 90% of the market today. And yeah, that's basically what we do.
Okay.
Great. My name is Evan Spytma. I've been in Asia now for about 13 years. 5 of the last years I've been working for Popcap to expand their operations in Southeast Asia as well as China. Most recently, as of last month, I made a jump to another company called Antix. We provide back-end technology for multi-device gaming, so one SKU that, from a developer's point of view, can just simply... I think I've got issues here in static. One SKU from a developer's point of view allows you to port your device to all gaming devices using one technology, and it shares your game, saves your game progress both on and off the cloud, and allows you to share your games virally. So that's currently what I'm doing.
Hi, this is Mori from DeNA. Myself and the DeNA came to Singapore about 18 months ago, and just like 1 year ago, this event, we talk a lot. So we are perhaps one of the largest mobile gaming company. Then we are doing a lot of stuff in Singapore and Vietnam, Southeast Asia region. Then also because of proximity and the tight relationship between Southeast Asia and Japan, I'm getting some extra kind of the mission. And I just discovered one new mission being the marriage advisor for those trying to marry Japanese women. So after this, I have to help you guys.
Yes. I would like to seek that advice. Okay, so yeah, we have DeNA, we have former Popcap guy, Plants vs Zombies, and we have Touchten Games, TMG. Now, you guys mentioned that you are in Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia is so big, we are talking about a few countries here. So maybe starting from Mori-san, and then I'll go around. Which are the few countries that you are focusing on, and why?
Yeah, actually, that is not a very simple question to answer. Well, everybody has their own opinion, and I think it will change quite a bit, and also depending on what particular business you try to drive. So to us, actually, Singapore is very important. Actually, very, very unique place. It's not so much as the market. Of course, there's a good market, but a high ARPU market. But for us, the reason why we came to Singapore is Singapore is really the hub to the region. And this region as a whole has lots of different value to our ecosystem. So in a sense, the one side of our equation is just we try to see Southeast Asia as a market. The another side of the equation is we try to see Southeast Asia as a part of our own game production ecosystems. So in that aspect, And the country like Vietnam, we spend lots of time and we acquire a company. We see huge value of working with the Vietnamese team. So that's very important. But from like a general business point of view, just Singapore's offer a really, really unique value for anyone trying to do business in this region.
Are you acquiring anyone from Indonesia?
No, as you see the DeNA these days, so we stopped really buying a company. So now we are busy, absorbing what we got.
Okay, thank you. So Evans?
So because Antix technology works on hardware, we mainly focus on manufacturers, which are mainly in China. So this year it's a large push into China, but a lot of those products actually make their way down to Southeast Asia. Key markets for us here would be Indonesia, as we've already started expansion plans there, and then Philippines, because I'll be relocating there next month, and they have better beaches. So there you go.
Can I stop you there? So when you were in Popcap,
Sure.
which countries in Southeast Asia do you actually focus, or do you have any?
The main focus at that time was Indonesia with the low end smartphone devices, and we were just branching out into Thailand before I left.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, so for us, we're primarily very focused on the Southeast Asian region. That's where we believe that as a Singaporean company, we have a unique advantage of proximity to those markets. We can serve them well. We can understand the consumers there better. So fundamentally, Indonesia is a big market for us. It's easily 50% by land mass of the whole place. So Indonesia is number one priority. We're also very active in Thailand and Malaysia. These are the other two, the other countries in the first layer of priority. Then going a little bit outside, you will have Vietnam and you will have Philippines, and then the wild card is India. So basically, those are the markets that we're looking at.
Okay, so starting with you, Alvin. So I want to ask, you gather developers, right? You gather games,
Right.
Game developers, and you are a so-called Singapore-based company, but you are, active Southeast Asian. But as you know, Southeast Asia, even though it's so close to each other, but they have different culture, different things. So my question will be, and also to all the panel, will be about localization. What are the tips, or what do you do actually to help game developers localize, or how any tips for people in the game industry?
Sure. I think although there is a lot of diversity, we do also see similarities. We generally try to group. We normally group Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam more or less in the same category. Then Philippines is a little bit different. I think Philippines is very much influenced by Western culture. If you look at the app stores, the top grossing on the Philippines app store will mirror the US a little bit more. But when we look at Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, generally the same. There's some common stuff like football, gambling, stuff of shit will always get to the top. So there are some similarities. I think for us as a company, we help developers by spotting after the content that would serve the biggest common denominator. Because I think when the gaming business is something is fun, it is fun everywhere, right? So, but the challenge is of course language. So we do also go to the extent to help them with translation services to Thai, which is going to be challenging because it's a completely new syntax, and sometimes to Vietnamese as well.
So Evans, when you were in Popcap, Popcap games such as Plants vs Zombie, Bejeweled,
Sure.
Blitz, and everything. So yeah, any special localization you did for certain countries, or anything you did?
So I think there's probably the two biggest projects for us were Plants vs Zombies in China. So we fully reskinned all of the zombies and the plants, set different stages, and also looked at different monetization. So in terms of stages, we had like Great Wall instead of just a backyard lawn. So that was one thing we did, and then we took it a bit further when we looked at different business models, where we started to cut up the game into half of the game was 3 renminbi, and then you would pay another 2 renminbi for the next quarter and the next quarter. and then add-on stages after that. That worked for us very well in China. In Japan, we looked at our titles and said they wanted more of a fast-paced game. So we developed Popcap Tower, which was blitz versions of our most popular IP, Bejeweled, Zuma, etc. And we just made it into a high-score type leaderboard game. It was #1 on the Green Network for puzzle games for over a year. But also included in that, we did a lot of localization where we actually made like a superpower team. The Tokyo team did this. They made out of Bejeweled. So Bejeweled, for those of you who don't know, it's 8 gems, all different colors. So they made characters for each one of those gems. Human characters, some was a pet, like a pet parent and a pet parrot, and even made a very attractive woman, and that's needed in all Japanese games. So that's kind of what we did there, and it was very successful.
Okay, and from Mori-san and from DeNA, so are the games that you bring to Southeast Asia, are they made in Japan or are they made locally?
At this point, we do not really develop the game specifically for Southeast Asia market. That's simply too small. So usually the type of game you're going to see on the Southeast market, like Singapore, is the games on we call the mobile game West platform. It's basically we designed primarily targeting the Western audience. So we haven't quite figured out what to do beyond that. However, when it comes to localization, and besides all the standard issues and like Alvin and Evan talked about, we face very unique issues as a kind of social game developers. So the social game, as you know, after the point of launch matters a lot. So we ended up keeping even bigger size of team than the team developing game itself. Then after release the game, you're gonna see weekly event, which is basically game inside the game. So always looking the KPI data, analyzing data, with just tweaking around, and we define the new assets. So that means when we release the game, so we always continuously develop the game. Then the localization for like a console game is very simple, right? Like it's just localize, forget. But for us, continuum thing. So the localization for us, it's if we try to localize each event, each market, the code become too complicated to the extent we cannot run anymore. So this is a very interesting challenge for social game publisher. Like, do we want localize, like do achieve optimum localization to particular region for particular game, or just we try to optimize localization to the extent of gaming life for one code basis? It's a very different optimization we have to think about.
I see. So not every game have a sexy girl in the end.
Well, it has to be sexy. Huh?
Has to be sexy. Okay, yeah.
Well, that's a simple thing.
Yeah, so what I get from you guys and what we are doing also in Touchten is that whenever we go to a region and we try to attack it, is that not only language is important, because localizing just the language will not do anything in terms of download, but what really matters is the localization in terms of culture, like Ivan mentioned, the Renminbi spending in China, habits and stuff like that. Yeah, that's interesting. So moving on to the trends in mobile gaming. So this is, I think, one of the hot question that I want to ask each one of you. So is feature phone gaming still hot? Maybe Mori-san, you can start.
Well, inside Japan, yes, we still have feature phone, but very quickly now displaced by smartphone. But looking at the user base, still, feature phone inside Japan. For feature phone, Japan is not really feature phone; it's really smartphone. So but outside, we don't really looking at any other feature phone. We just focus on the iPhone and Android phone only.
I see. So Japan has the very special Galapagos handphone. They call it. Evans, you have anything to add?
I think if you just look at the handset revenue, I think right now feature phones make up 17% of overall revenue from OEMs. So that's a key indicator. In terms of units, they still make up 60% of the market, but I still don't see much hope there. And then I just read this amazing article by this company called Tech in Asia. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but they said like 86% of new mobile phones being manufactured in China are all Android devices. So I don't see necessarily a feature phone being as hot anymore. Yeah.
I see. And for Alvin, you mentioned that basically your core business right now is in feature phone. Yeah, hopefully you can share with us, is feature phone still hot?
Yeah, I think it's a transition market. I think without a shadow of a doubt that with all the shipments coming from China and stuff like that, eventually the market will move towards smartphones. But I have to also say that when the market moves towards smartphones, the smartphones that they will get are not the smartphones that you and I are using right now. They will not be using an S2, they will not be using a Note 2. They will be using some lame-ass brand that you never heard before. It runs Android, but it's nowhere near as fast, right? So just a disclaimer in that the same type of content that runs on very high processors in our markets may not completely fit. It may not be downloadable at all, given the network problems in those areas. So majority, from my understanding, from our data, majority of the revenue today for gaming, when people look at mobile gaming in the region, majority of it right now is still coming from feature phones. They are monetized a different way from the way smartphone monetize. It's typically through packages. It's typically through it's not the IAP. It's not the in-app purchases that most of us are familiar with today. But the big chunk of the revenue, I believe, today is still stored in the feature phones. But this is, however, definitely a sunsetting space. So I think the question that everybody has, including ourselves, is when and how fast it will move towards smartphones, and what would this new generation of smartphones look like, and what type of content would best be able to serve them.
So you just now mentioned about the low-level Android, right? I call them not so smartphone because they're like smartphone, but they're really not. So yeah, coming from what you said, so there's a statement that I always hear all the time. So it goes like this. So it is inevitable that everyone in the region will slowly but surely switch to smartphone. So should game company jump ship soon? Like, should they just abandon the flash games, abandon the feature phone, and just build for smartphone? Can maybe, starting from Alvin, can you?
So I think it's a company strategy. I think it's how you want to play the game. I think, at least from my point of view, I agree that eventually everybody will hold on to a smartphone. But again, a disclaimer: what type of smartphones? So and of course, how long it's going to take, right? So I think it's a company strategy perspective. Our perspective of TMG is that the majority of value today is still stored in feature phones. There is obviously, in our point of view, money to be made, users to be gained. So there's no reason why we shouldn't go after it, given the fact that we have an understanding of this market. I think for companies and for companies coming from out of the region, the feature phone market is a very mystical market for them, right? They don't know what type of phones these guys use. It baffles them that people can play games on this type of devices. But reality is that they do. Reality is that they pay money for it. So that's something that we understand. That's why it's easier for us to say that we pick this strategy of serving the feature phone market today, and then very quickly also finding our feet in the smartphone market. But I can understand for other companies, the investment to understand this space might not be worth it for them. So that's my point of view.
Okay.
I would agree with that in terms of it being a company strategy. If you look back 2 years, feature phone made up, in terms of units globally, 84% of the market. Then it was around 72 last year, or the year before that, and now in 2012, all the data shows now 60%. So it is definitely on a decline, but you have companies like Nokia staying in the game and increasing their market share by 3%, and that's just their company strategy, as all the other manufacturers are now leaving that space. So they're gobbling up all that's being left over. And as long as smartphone continues to grow at a rapid pace above 40%, you're going to continue to see a decline in feature phones. Average smartphone right now is selling for 150 US. Feature phones are 50. So there's $100 price difference. But then you can go into low-end smartphones and actually hit that feature phone market. And then to that point then this is the same thing I encountered with Popcap is how do I expand into those markets when that I can't, my game doesn't work on those type of phones, even low-end smartphones, and that's why I made that jump. I found a partner that actually has the technology to modify your build automatically to work on those phones, and that's why eventually I made that jump to Antix, because I've never seen anything like that, and I knew it was ideal for this type of market, this low-end market.
Okay, for us, maybe until 6 months ago, there was actually active debate internally whether or not we should support the feature phone in this region. Really, especially having seen the emerging device coming from Nokia, actually looks pretty powerful and looks good. But ended up we just simply drop it. Just adding more phone, supporting phone and feature phone, just add just an unbelievable amount of complexity in terms of supporting and running operation, and increase the risk of like a bug, and just don't see any clear benefit. And especially looking at where our revenue is coming from today, and also next few years, it's even if we ended up supporting feature phone, it doesn't even reach 5% of our revenue. So just we didn't see any good ROI out of it. Then just decision is forget forever, and just want to see how just all the smartphone penetrating the region.
Okay, so speaking about so DeNA mentioned that they just almost abandoned feature phone and moving to a smartphone, right? And what do you think is the right timing for so-called the whole market, the whole Southeast Asian market to tip, and everybody is starting using smartphone? Just a quick, maybe it's 2 years time, 3 years time. What is your opinion, Mori-san?
I guess as we know, every year we gather and talk, you're gonna see the jumping number. So it's already basically we are on the tipping point. So there is no question. Nobody should argue about it. It's going to happen. So it depends on the country. Some country go faster, some country are slower. But just thinking about like a country like India, was Android penetration as a percentage still low. But maybe in a couple of years, the number of install base of Android phone would, goes like 100 million. So that's a substantial number. So in that sense, it's already, to me, done.
I see. So I agree with you with the tipping point, because what I realized in Singapore is that everybody's almost using smartphone, and it's really hard for you to buy a feature phone. They don't sell it anymore. So and Evan, you have any thoughts about when is Southeast Asia going to be smartphone savvy?
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. I mean, you've got the Chinese brands coming on board. They're decreasing the price of smartphones, so that's great for the market overall. I think the next thing you should be thinking about, though, is not necessarily when is my jump from feature phone to smartphone. It's smartphone to multi-device gaming or television, or what's that next step that you should be having an eye on. That's my advice. Smartphone, Android has been around, and for those in the industry, it's a no-brainer. It's now, what's the next one? What's the next big hit? Before it was social with Facebook and all of that. Now is it more, and this is my own personal view, I think it's more about looking at games in a different light, seeing them as completely digital and being able to be used across all platforms. And I think that type of model will bring about new business models that are not out on the market today and that can be leveraged here in Southeast Asia. And finally, people can say, we're generating some revenue from Southeast Asia.
Alvin, quick remark if you have.
Well, that's a crystal ball question, right? So bottom line is that we don't know, but as Mori-san has said, every year you come back, the numbers are going up. But fact of the matter is that today is still less than 20%. So I don't know. It's a crystal ball question.
Okay, so but I have to ask you this. So, how is TMG doing in terms of feature? Yes, how is Kota Games doing in terms of feature phone games? You know, can you share some statistics?
Sure. So growing, I think we only started really to grow from the last quarter of last year, where we completed an investment from Singtel and SoftBank. So I think right now we are, if I'm not mistaken, 2.6 or 2.7 million registered users. Still growing very quickly. We are live in Indonesia with 2 of the biggest telcos. We help them monetize. Moving into Thailand, we work with the telcos because fundamentally they are the most effective, if not the most efficient ways to monetize from users today. It's a proven model for them. It makes money. But definitely the type of ARPUs that you see will be different from the ARPU of a smartphone. So you really have to play that volume game to get enough volume, and that's something that we're trying to do right now.
Well, congratulations on the funding and getting all that. But I'm just curious. So in the recent shift, TMG, in smartphone browser-based game, right? But then I heard that you guys are moving also towards native app. Right. Is it a hint that feature phone isn't doing well, or?
No, I think it's not a hint. I think it's an obvious sign. Right? So I mean, I agree with Mori's sign. The fact of the matter is that if I'm a Japanese company coming in, probably would have taken a different strategy, starting from some smartphone right at the beginning, because the level of investment that you have to do to understand the feature phone market, to serve them, the additional complexity, the crappy devices, it's all part and parcel of a strategy. But what happened was that we started in that space first, so we have the momentum to continue serving them and moving into smartphones. So I think it's an obvious sign that we agree, and we definitely see that the future is going to be smartphone. And I'll just throw one more thing to the table. I think the future is going to be Android. So we're very much focusing on what Android can deliver for us in the coming years.
Android, okay. So, yeah, there's always a debate between iOS and Android, right? So, I think, to be honest now, Southeast Asia, according to my opinion, Android will win over just because of the pricing. I think that's an obvious question. Now, just quick questions because we are running out of time. It's about, I'm a developer myself, and as a startup, I always think about the revenue, the cash flow, show me the money kind of thing. Now, just quickly from the three of you, maybe you can start anyone. The consumer behavior market is like, Indonesia is big but not paying. Is it the same in Thailand? Maybe Mori-san, do you know anything? Okay, maybe TMG? You guys are not in Thailand.
So they are big. They definitely pay less. You're talking about like India, China, it's all the same, right? If it's big, it pays less, right? It's economies of scale. So they're big, they pay less. But I think the fact of the matter is that the method of monetization has to be right. Again, in-app purchase for us is the bread and butter thing. For them, they probably don't know what's an app. So in-app purchase may not be the best way to do it right now. But there are companies making money in those markets. That's a fact. So it is how we can find the right monetization model. To answer your question, if you're looking at like the ARPU between the markets, Thailand is definitely very high ARPU. Okay. It's traditionally a very, very strong gaming market. A lot of big MMORPG companies are there. Gaming is part of their culture. So a little bit like Japan. So I think they have very high ARPUs, but the volume of the market is smaller. Indonesia is voluminous, but they pay less. I think it's same as India, China.
Quick one, which one has the highest ARPU?
From what you see, is definitely Thailand.
Thailand, I see. So maybe the right question for Mori-san is that, DeNA seems to be working closely with VNG, right? And then you even acquire Punch Entertainment. So how does the DeNA work out in Vietnam? What is the statistic? Very quickly, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. The way we are looking at the Vietnam, of course, there could be a potentially good market. Actually, the biggest gaming market in Southeast Asia and India. However, we are looking at the Vietnam as a more of the source of talents. And what we worked out with BNG is we sent our game producer and just advising the team. They now set up the quote unquote Japan studio, targeting game, creating games specifically for Japanese market. Because I think about spending same amount of energy and time, if we create a game that works in Japanese market, return is going to be huge. So then just recently they released a game for our platform, actually PC platform, mobile game, Yaba game. So the title is Pirates Galaxy, Galaxy Pirates. So it's a tower defense type of game. All the graphics, like typical Japanese moe style thing, and then including all the Japanese language, it's all done inside BNG. So Vietnamese guy has done. It's a very impressive game. And also for Punch, we have released the game, our own first-party game in the U.S. market called History Attack. That's already up and running on the Android market. It's if you do not know this is done by Vietnamese team, you would be really, you could think this is like a game done by like Japanese team or US team. But inside, more than 95% of code was developed and done by the Vietnamese team, and all the QA is done by Vietnamese team. Maybe half of the asset was done Vietnamese guy, and even some of the game design done by Vietnamese guy.
So you don't necessarily monetize in Vietnam, but you actually make the games in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's a very simple and arbitrage theory, right? So the Vietnam cost of development law, and if you make a game that works on high ARPU market, gonna get huge return.
So yeah, thank you. Well, very lastly, this is supposed to be fun. Evans, I heard your story, so you'll be the last. But in the Southeast Asia region, maybe starting with Alvin, if you want. Southeast Asia region, what is so-called your horror stories dealing with local developers or local payment gateway or telcos or consumers? You don't have to mention names, and then wrap it up with a simple message to Southeast Asian people about the market. Maybe can start with Alvin or Mori, because Alvin has the funniest one.
So I think for me is which one, right? Because you encounter those on a daily basis. So yeah, I think it's just so I think for the story is more of when our foreign friends come and they get a culture shock. For us, we sort of more or less get it. I think the business culture here is still they don't understand digital a lot. Okay. Yeah, they don't understand digital. So coming from internet, from web 2.0 mobile, you usually come in with, for you, seems like very no-brainer type of concepts, but to break it out to them can be a very, very daunting process.
Okay.
So I think fact of the matter is the message is that understand that we are still a couple of years behind a fully connected society.
Okay.
So they need to keep that in mind as they are trying to push very groundbreaking services and products.
I see. Maurice, you have something to add?
Well, this is just a funny story. Nothing really.
Yes.
Doing a partnership negotiation discussion, there's always facing some funny story, right?
Yes.
So I think this case is India.
Okay.
So we are talking to some India developer and game developer asking collaboration, and they say, always great story, of course.
Yes.
And then, but we always meet CEO outside India,
Okay.
Singapore or Japan. They. I didn't really think that any particular reason, but I always meet outside.
Okay.
The later, from our Indian friends, tell me, oh, there's a very good reason, because the guy when come back to India is going to be arrested in police because he's under criminal charge.
I see. So this kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
Maybe Evan, you can wrap it up.
Okay.
With your own version of funny story.
I guess the funny stories always come from China, right? Where people just rip you off, and they're like, "What? Do you have a problem with me ripping you off?" So one of them was Plants vs. Zombie has been ripped off every which way, but we noticed that they were being some of the IP was being used on some food products. And so we called the company and we said, hey, cease and desist, you're not allowed to do that. And their reply was, well, this is the only way we can make money. And so if you stop us from using your IP, then our manufacturing plant's going to go under, hundreds of families won't have jobs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them all on a bus, and we'll drive from the southern China all the way up to Shanghai over the weekend, and we are going to destroy your company because you're destroying ours. So So you come into situations like that almost happen every week in China.
Well, yeah. So yeah, we have a lively discussion. I'm very honored to be with here, and I hope you enjoy the session. And let's give a round of applause for the panelists. And thank you for listening.